Welcome to another big match build-up show, and Saints are back in action this weekend and the bank holiday weekend no less, travelling across the coast to Brighton and Hove Albion to the Amex. There were some encouraging signs though last weekend, but typically slow progress from Saints, but we'll get to more on that later on in the show. But for this weekend, we take the trip along to the cosmopolitan city of Brighton. So coming up then on this week's show, we refuse to be drawn into pressure points, and it's still a long way to go for Southampton this season. And I chat to the Brighton podcast, the Albion Roar, to find out why it's been a stark contrast this season.
We're competing, that's the main thing, and you know, you have to say two very disappointing results, but now we come up to a run of games other than the United and Chelsea games where hopefully we can be competitive and get points.
You wouldn't believe the transition. You wouldn't believe if you have any memory of the game at St Mary's and saw how defensive and how poor we were. Don't get me wrong, we're a lot better in the second half. But if you remember the game at the Amex, you won't recognise the Albion on Saturday.
As per usual, now, the episode is available to download if you click on the card above my head if you're watching on YouTube, or available on more audio platforms below the show. Now, of course, an away game wouldn't be complete without your bite-sized guide, so stay tuned for that later on in the show for Brighton. And of course, do let me know how and where you will be following the Saints this weekend, and let me know your score predictions for this weekend in the comments. But for now then, it's time to kick off our Brighton Hove Albion versus Southampton big match build-up show. So kicking off then our big match Brighton build-up show. Clive joins me on the line. Plenty to talk about this time though, Clive. Let's firstly look back at the weekend. The Liverpool result, although, on paper, of course, we weren't expecting much. Saints won, Liverpool 2 in the end. And we saw some encouraging signs there, didn't we? Some glorious chances spurned by Yoshida and Adams, only to put it down the keeper's throat and to put it just over in the first half.
Yeah, there were encouraging signs, Freddie, without a doubt. But it's the good, the bad, and the ugly, isn't it? And we've flirted with getting a result in that game. You've got to say Mane's goal was brilliant. I think. I've seen the guys on telly pick the bones out of it and say that the marking was poor at the start of the throw-in. But when someone does that is just sheer brilliance, isn't it? And it's very tough to defend against that. God, picking holes in that, mate. It's so tough. It's so tough. But the finishing, yes, from our point of view, we've created chances, which is a good sign, a really good sign going forward. But we need to put those chances away.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we would have been satisfied actually going into the break at half time. But as you say, Mane with a sort of wonderful strike right from the edge of the box. And as you say, we're clutching at straws almost a little bit. We could say that the marking could have been tighter and perhaps somebody could have put their body on line to get a block in.
Yes, possibly. And Højbjerg nearly got his tackle in, but that goal goes in. But then, second half, Liverpool dominate for such a long... And they should have sewn the game up and never look a gift horse in the mouth. When Firmino misses that chance and you're thinking somewhere along the line we're going to get a chance last 10, last 20, and then we let the softest ever second goal in. It's our throw-in, for goodness sake. I mean, we did it last season. It was our corner when we conceded to Liverpool, the second goal. This time it's our throw-in, and it's just so poor. It really is poor. It
did appear that we sort of fell asleep or forgot to wake up in the first 30 minutes of that second half. And we thought, Liverpool had a host of chances, and Firmino missing a sitter, obviously leading 1-0 at the time. And we thought, how many could they get here? We could see ourselves a bit of a drumming.
But if you hang in at 1-0, I know that sounds a bit negative, but we are playing Liverpool. If you hang in at 1-0, you've always got a chance. And with them having to play that game midweek away in Istanbul, you felt, last 20 Saints with fresh legs and with the right substitutions, which I think Ralph made. I think he put the right players on at the right time. A bit of impetus. We could snatch a point, but that second goal makes it so difficult. And then we're going back to our old bad habits of missing chances. And Ingsy's That's not a lucky goal. That is something that will probably that'll happen maybe once, at most twice a season. But he's followed up on the keeper. He's done what all strikers should do: shut the keeper down, and he's reacted very quick. To be fair, to put that ball in, some players would have turned their back, but he's alert and alive enough to put the ball in the net. So well done, Danny Ings. He's taken a lot of flack, I've noticed, from on social media. So it should give him a bit of confidence, but then he goes and misses an absolute sitter with an air shot. Yeah, Valery had a very iffy game defensively. His confidence looked a bit shot, but he did put that ball in, and that was probably the ball of the game. It was on a plate, Danny, and unfortunately he missed it.
Well, the Danny Ings goal, cutting down the kick from Adrian, and it's almost a carbon copy from what we saw in pre-season. He done it at Preston, cutting down the goalkeeper's kick. So the tactics have really been sort of forced home amongst the strikers to press up high up the pitch and force the defenders into mistakes. But as you say, Danny Ings, all he needs to do there is get something on the end of that, and we can really steal a point there from Liverpool. Yeah,
it's not for the want of trying, but those things happen, and unfortunately it's those fine margins. It's the fact that a split second faster and he stopped Mane's shot. Danny Ings times his shot, we've got a goal. And it is those really fine margins. We're competing, that's the main thing. And you have to say two very disappointing results, but now we come up to a run of games other than the United and Chelsea games where hopefully we can be competitive and get points.
I thought we were competitive in the last sort of half an hour or so, or the last 15 minutes, should I say. And yes, we could have made it quite a historic comeback. But I think the statistics actually are quite nice to Saints here, actually. We've managed 14 shots against Liverpool. Not many teams get to do that. But as you say, let down by not finishing our chances.
I think it's about being wise in the game, Freddie. Up at Burnley, I couldn't see Burnley scoring. 12 minutes... And we're dead and buried. And against Liverpool, yes, we were competing in the game, but we've given the game away at a point after being a little bit battered by them. At a point in the game when we're just about to take it to them, we've given the game away 2-0. It's so hard to come back from that. So I think it's about being wise. And if you look at the number of points that we lost from winning positions last season, it is sometimes about a bit more nous upstairs and a bit more bottle, but that comes with getting results, mate. And we need this result at Brighton on Saturday.
Now, we were trying to pick the bones out of it right after the match with some of the fans, and they felt let down by the officiating. And I know you felt aggrieved in the pub after the game as well. Most of the sort of fans saw it mostly to Liverpool. And one incident that really highlights for me, actually, is Romeo picking up a yellow card. We say it many times over the course of the season, Romeo gets a yellow card. That's a guaranteed thing. But that tackle was a clean 50-50. He's got the ball he's got the ball wholly. And in turn, actually, Romeo voted man of the match amongst the Saints fan base.
Yeah, Oriel got really stuck in, and it's very unlucky to pick up that booking, but that's the way it is these days, mate. And I just wish it was the same rule for both teams, because I thought Liverpool put their foot in a few times and they just walk away. It's a foul and play on, isn't it? And that's where you just want it to be. I don't think it's affected the result in terms of any particular. If you look at the goals, you analyse the goals, nothing's been affected there. But it does affect the game, doesn't it? It does affect how you feel about everything. And he's had to take Oriel off, I think, because he thinks, well, one more tackle and he's off, red card, suspended. I don't know, what is it, 1 game, 2 games? I don't know. They change the rules every 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's a 1 game ban if it's 2 yellow cards in a match.
I think Ralph's taken Oriel off because of the booking and a few other subtle things that he wants to do. But there you go. Why aren't their players booked?
And we did see some encouraging signs, actually, in the last sort of 15 minutes against Liverpool. Yeah. We saw Gineppo come on, replacing Bertrand, really look quite lively, taking the players on. And it looks like he's got something there that hopefully he can carry forward for the rest of the season.
Yeah, he did look lively, look positive. All the guys that we bought, I mean, Shea gave them a decent game. He just needs that first goal and to get his confidence, really. And we haven't seen Are We Dancing yet. We haven't seen him. And I'll call Gineppo the Nipper. The nipper, it's a lot easier. It's a mush expression, isn't it? The nipper.
Yeah.
All right, nipper.
So, obviously we do head to Brighton the weekend then. As it stands, no points on the board after 2 games. But we need to keep our composure though, don't we? I mean, we've got last season, it was a happy hunting ground at the Amex, a couple of victories, one in the Cup, one in the league. But it's all changed down there this year. Former Saint, albeit sort of briefly.
For 5 minutes,
Graham Potter in the dugout.
Yeah.
They have started fairly well. We shan't go down there sort of expecting to win.
Yeah, they're playing a lot more football by all accounts. Chris Hughton, God, he'd done so well for him over the years, but he just seemed to have run out of ideas. And if you lose the players, it's so difficult, and then the crowd follows. And they got out of it by the skin of their teeth, didn't they? They really looked like they were gone at one point, especially when they were losing to Cardiff. But they got those necessary points to scramble over the line. And it seems like they've got a new lease of life right now. But and playing a lot more football. Playing a lot more football, which will be interesting in the fact that Saints like to play football. So you got the two clashes of the different styles now, more similar. But I still think Brighton will be dangerous from free kicks and corners. That's the one thing we've got to really be solid on and really concentrate. But I do think Saints have got enough football in them to take the game to Brighton at certain stages of the game. I'm expecting a little bit of an onslaught at the start, but then I'm expecting Saints to come back and start playing some decent football.
Yeah, and I guess those sort of, I guess you've got modern managers now employing that sort of fluid football, aren't you? Graham Potter very much inheriting that, done quite well over in Europe. With Osteron's got to quarterfinals of the Europa League with a shoestring budget, to say the least, done, I suppose, okay with Swansea when it took them over as well. But I guess...
Swansea were a basket case. They really were. They just got relegated. A lot of players dissatisfied, fans dissatisfied. And I thought he actually got them on an even keel. And at one point they were out of sniff of the playoffs, but he got them playing really attractive football. And I think it got the fans back on side there. And I think they'll be disappointed to lose him so quickly.
And I guess it could be said that Saints almost do better against expansive sides.
Without a doubt. It's set pieces, isn't it? We've got to be stronger. This zonal marking and big lumps causing us problems. We need to be able to stand up to that. My goodness, we've got some big lumps in our team that should be able to stand up to that. So, yeah.
So what do we do then to compensate that? Do we add an extra defender in there, continue with the 3 at the back or 5, however? Or I mean, Ralph is almost desperate to play this flat back 4 with the 4-2-2-2 formation. Yeah,
I'd say they're going to be more comfortable with that. And again, that's up to Ralph what he goes with on the day. But I just hope that I think Saints are going to have to rely on a huge amount of team effort this season. Spartacus type attitude, you're not getting past me, because I think, but especially against the top teams. But this is a big challenge. This is, given the start we've had now, we need a point on the board, something on the board, because you don't want 3 defeats to start the season, because then you are starting to play catch up with and looking at the fixtures that are following. So be positive, Saints. Saints fans, I know, will be positive and give the team great support. Again, it's one of the days of the season that you really look forward to. Everybody together on a train, having a few sherbets in Brighton and getting that awful journey to the ground. But, so what? It's a day out, so let's go and enjoy ourselves.
So what's it going to be on the pitch then, Clive? Hopefully it's sun's going to be shining. It is a bank holiday weekend here in the UK, but we certainly shouldn't be on the beach.
No, definitely not Brighton Beach. Bloody great rocks. Anyway, it's going to be 1-1, Freddie, I think. I'd love to see us win again down there. I thought that was one of my best memories from last season, winning at Brighton, because I knew what it meant to the relegation fight. But the relegation fight hasn't started yet, has it?
No, too soon. Come on now.
So let's go down there with a positive attitude. And I'm sure the team will, and I'm sure the fans are going to give it great backing.
Yeah, absolutely. And sold out support, but great stuff. Good to speak to you once again, as always, Clive.
Cheers, Freddie. See you on that train.
There you have it then. Can Saints get on the board this weekend. Do let me know your thoughts and predictions in the comments. But time now then for your bite-sized guide. An away game wouldn't be complete without it. Now, Brighton is one of the shortest trips and one of the most easily accessible trips of the season, getting to Brighton city centre, that is. More on how to get to the Amex, which serves Falmer, in a minute. But getting to and from Brighton is fairly straightforward from Southampton, a direct 2-hour train journey, and you can get a day return for about £10 with a rail card. Now, if there's 3 or more of you travelling together, you can also get a group saver, again, which is about £10. So save some pennies there, certainly some to be saved. But also be aware, of course, there are only 4 carriages on these bloody trains, and there's only sort of 1 an hour. So the carriages will be double, triple busy. So I suggest get down early to the train station to at least get yourself a space on the train. Now, for alternative routes, then I would suggest maybe head via Havant or Clapham Junction, but be aware this may add an extra hour to your journey for the privilege of a seat on a train. First world problems. Alternatively, you can also travel then with our favourite family-friendly coach travel providers, Southampton Away Travel. They've laid on an extra coach for you this weekend for you to get in and out of the ground with no trouble at all and to avoid the hustle and bustle. For more information, head to southamptonawaytravel.co.uk. Now, once you get to Brighton, then you'll be after some liquid refreshment, right? Now, there are a handful of pubs which are strictly home only, and those are the pubs directly opposite the train station, so do avoid those before kickoff. But this city is your oyster. There is a plethora of fantastic bars, pubs, restaurants. You've even got the seafront and some beach if you want to soak up some sunshine before kickoff. So all you have to do then is just walk 5-10 minutes down from the train station, down the hill, and then head towards the seafront or even towards the famous Brighton lanes, where there is a great selection of places to visit. And those making the trip then to the Amex this Saturday will know that the football ground is about 5 miles away from the city centre. Now, it's worth noting that your match ticket is valid with travel to and from the ground at Falmer. Now, Brighton, they do operate regular train services and shuttle services from the train station in the city centre, but the later you leave it, the longer the queues will be. So I do suggest getting to the train station at Brighton at no longer than, say, 2 o'clock. Otherwise, you're risking missing kickoff on Saturday. Now, there you have it then. If you're heading to Brighton this Saturday, let me know what you're up to. What are your plans or where and how you'll be following the game this weekend. On now then to our second half of the show and find out what to expect from the Seagulls this weekend. Welcome then to the second half of our big match build-up show. And of course, joining us on the line now for the regular sort of Brighton view. And it's Alan from the Albion Roar. Good to see you again. And, you know, the last thing I said to you when I left the pub back in March, I said I'll see you next season. Just. Listen, I'm more than happy to. No, I'm not happy to admit, but I'm more than prepared to admit we stunk the place out last season, second half of last season. Now, we had so many sort of games where, you know, we were poor. I mean, I always remember the game at your place last season. Southampton one way for the first half. Then we actually got ourselves into gear and got our equaliser. But that was a bit of a sign of things to come, because, you know, when we had those 3 games which we near the end of the season that we thought would be winnable, we were talking about Cardiff at home, Bournemouth at home, Southampton at home, and the players just didn't turn up, or rather the system didn't turn up, or it wasn't there. I can't say the players down tools, but it was just turgid to watch. And you cannot understand how and why it's happened. Southampton were well worth their win. With all due respect, not necessarily the greatest side, but, you know, they did what they needed to do, got what they needed. But then, we had Cardiff 2-0, dreadful. Bournemouth, it was just ridiculous. It was wave after wave of counter-attack, and each goal exactly the same as the previous one. So I was so grateful of all things to Crystal Palace for actually keeping us up. 1, for letting us do the double over them, but 2, beating Cardiff in that second to last game, because
Cardiff beat Man U in the last game, and if Palace hadn't won that game, we'd be down.
If we are starting directly then what happened last season, I guess very much a similar story to what happened to us sort of the season before last, where you kind of relied on there to be three worst teams for you to stay up.
Absolutely. And we always felt that Fulham, Cardiff and Huddersfield always were the three, not the three worst teams, but they were three worst teams. We were sitting pretty at Christmas. We were kind of mid-table. We fancied a good cup run. We had a good cup run. We got all the way to the semi-final. But that's where the season unravelled. I mean, for us, I think it was kind of New Year's Day, away at West Ham, 2-0 up, looking handsome, and then just imploded. A couple of weeks later, played against Fulham, 2-0 up at half-time, and then just conceded 4 against a very, very poor Fulham side. And you could see it all coming. So, yeah, we lucked out in as much as the first half of the season was what saved us. But when you only pick up something ridiculous like 9 points in the last, 20 games, you're staring down the barrel. So, hooray for the first half of the season. But, there was no way that we could actually survive given what happened with the second half of the season.
And, that those sort of return of points, very, very frightening. We had a similar sort of episode, the season before last as well. But it's all changed, though, hasn't it, over the summer? Chris Hughton's left, or I don't know how you want to say it, mutual consent or sacked. I'm sure you can dish the dirt a little bit more.
I think there's the received wisdom around here is that Hughton did have to go. I think a lot of people, virtually everyone, agreed with his sacking. It was the manner of his sacking that frightened people almost. It was the day after Manchester City won the title at our place. And it was 7:00 in the morning. And Tony Bloom was having no nonsense. It was, sorry, mate, you're out. I think he'd obviously made his mind up a long time before that. But we never got a chance to say thank you. I mean, Chris has, he got us up. We were near the bottom of the championship when he took over. And he fulfilled his role, his primary target, which was to keep us in the Premier League in those 2 seasons. But, the trajectory, the curve was definitely downwards. And I don't think any of us could stomach another season.
And indeed, it was almost a shock to the system because, Chris Hughton well loved around the club, right? And, I mean, you've got to say it's got to be justified, though, after that sort of return of 9 points in the second half of the season.
I mean, there's no way that Chris could ever have not seen this coming, or at least, when you have that return, and the club has made a hell of an investment in the players and the infrastructure and the squad. And Chris has been the beneficiary of that. He's got together a good team. But, the criticism, which I think certainly holds water to a certain point of the players that he got in, which were definitely square pegs in round holes, is coming to fruition now. But he was far, and Norwich fans will tell you this, and not that I care too much for their opinion, but their attitude was, well, he played this boring negative football, which was reliant so much on defending. And then we've got some attacking players who were not enjoying their football, clearly not enjoying their football, fed up with just defend all the time and see if we can get a break. Glenn Murray played most of his games lonely. It was not good for us to watch. I mean, Tony's got to watch his bank balance as well. So Tony Bloom's got to watch his bank balance. And it's got to be just sort of like, everything has got to pick up for the club because, to have another season like that, especially when the warning signs are there, is never going to be good for a club. And it's, seeing as this is our first foray into the Premier League, we don't want to make the mistakes of others of going down and crashing and burning again. We're in a club in a decent position. We've got a very good infrastructure, but let's try and retain our Premier League position for as long as possible.
It's all changed now. You had a bit of bounce. Graham Potter's come in. I mean, what's the difference between then Chris Hughton and Graham Potter from what you've seen, obviously, from pre-season and the first 2 games of this Premier League season?
You wouldn't believe the transition. You wouldn't believe if you have any memory of the game at St Mary's and saw how defensive and how poor we were. Don't get me wrong, we're a lot better in the second half. But if you remember the game at the Amex, you won't recognise the Albion on Saturday. We've changed from 4-4-2 or 4-5-1 to a 3 at the back with 2 wing back. We play a game which invites the press, but then creates the space. We've got everyone moving. We've got more forward-minded players playing further forward. The transition has been amazing. It's a high-risk strategy because if it's not working well, it requires players to be of a certain quality, for their passing to be crisp, for the movement to be there. And if it comes undone, it's going to come seriously undone. Mm-hmm. But in the games against Watford and against West Ham that we've had, sort of start off getting into the game 10, 15 minutes, and then after that, basically take control. The difference is astonishing. That's not to say we're going to do it against Southampton. Of course not. It doesn't work that way. But we now have that most dangerous thing that all football fans have, hope.
It's two types of managers, really, isn't it? Graham Potter now really sort of that modern manager playing the high press, the high risk football. And it's almost Chris Hughton almost seems prehistoric with a 4-4-2 rigid defensive system, no approach going forward. But as you say, 3-0 win at Watford, a 1-1 draw at West Ham, and I have to ask you about this as well. It's on the lips of every Premier League fan and pundit around the country at the moment. It's VAR. I mean, you were disallowed a goal for offside last weekend.
It's easy to say this afterwards, but I was never a fan of VAR being implemented anyway. I prefer the game to be, human error, human folly. It's not a spreadsheet game. It's, where you've got, when you see all these various stats that come out, what on earth are XGs? What are, the possession, the press, the passes, the key passes. I just want to see, 11 blokes doing their best for their team, for their club, for their colours. And the rest of it is, it was never invented by computers. So why does it have to be played like that now? That said, if West Ham had a goal chalked off, you think, okay, well, it's the rules, but it's still rubbish. There's a side of me, I know it's not going to happen, but there's a side of me that actually thinks, well, in protest, we should all remain silent until such time as you see the other team kicking off, just to know that the goal's been awarded. It's ridiculous. So with the situation itself, it's a leg that's offside. For the rest of us, that looks level. Once upon a time, it was level because you considered it with their body shape. But it's not. His leg is slightly dangling out. And that's considered offside. That, for me, is not a good interpretation of the rules.
Well, it's become very fine margins now, so pedantic almost. The prime example, Sterling the first weekend, his arms off, his shoulders offside, his armpit, they say. But, you've had an influence, actually. As you say, Tony Bloom has splashed a bit of cash through the summer, paying nearly best part of sort of £50 million, including Aaron Moy from Huddersfield. I got the 20 million here from Bristol City for Adam Webster. Trossard got on the score sheet last weekend, 15 million from Genk. A real gamble here, in my opinion. Neil Maupay, I think I'm pronouncing that right, from Brentford. What have you seen of them so far, and what impacts are they going to have?
Maupay in both cases has come on a substitute. Usually replacing, because we've started with Glenn Murray. Yes, he's still alive. Yes, he's still playing. You're talking of dinosaurs. He's still playing and he's a little bit of a battering ram. I can't say that Glenn Murray is necessarily going to fit in with a Potter style because it requires movement, it requires energy. And I've seen oil tankers turn quicker than Glenn Murray. But the point would be is that Maupay can come on with sort of 15, 20, 25 minutes to go and wreak havoc because he's fast. He's got a good shot on him. He's got an accurate shot on him. He said, remembering one that got blazed over the bar against West Ham. They're a pain in the backside. When you've got Murray or Locadia playing their battering ram role and have tired out the defence, then Maupay can come on. Trossard can do a job. For me, he's getting plaudits and good for him for his finishing. The rest of his game, I think, is a little bit weak. He needs to bulk up a little bit. But again, quick, good shot on him, good eye for goal, two very good finishes, obviously one of which was chalked off. It doesn't take away from the fact it was the first one was a very good finish. I've got no problem with Trossard. We saw him in pre-season. We saw there was something about him. He played very, very well in the Europa League, last season. Maupay is someone that the club have been looking for 2 or 3 years.
And look, it's the transfer market now as well. £20 million seems like an absolute steal in this current age, and it's, Saints are reluctant to pay anywhere near £20. We're quite stubborn on our fees as well. But if we wrap things up, then obviously this weekend specifically, it's bank holiday weekend. Hopefully the sun's going to be shining. We seem to be quite lucky actually when we visit Brighton. Early September last season, end of sort of spring, nice sunshine last season. So what's it going to be this weekend then, Alan?
Well, it's bank holiday, which means it's going to chuck it down, isn't it? The Mods and Rockers are in town. There's going to be deck chair lozzing. So if there's a Southampton scooter club that wants to come along and enjoy the weekend as well, who knows? Yeah, what's it going to be like? It's going to be a regular game, isn't it? It's not one that sets the rest of the Premier League alight. You'll have Sky still talking about it as a South Coast derby. Please don't.
It's not.
But it's not. You're 70 miles away. Luton's closer. So you've got, I think, if you're looking for the same kind of lackadaisical performance from the Albion in order to pick up your points this time, I think you're going to be in for a shock, because they have really bucked their ideas up. So, yeah, it's two teams, I think, that are looking up the table to sort of see what they can get. So there's an awful lot of aspiration in both sides. So where's the game going to go? I think I fancy us just because we're at home.
But great to speak to you once again, Alan. Just remind everyone where we can find you, catch up with you as well on the radio show.
Sure, you can find us on 97.2 FM in Brighton and Hove. You can find us on radioreverb.com. That's every Saturday at midday. Or you can find us on our podcast, which is on Audio Boom. Just look for the Albion Roar. Great stuff. Good to speak to you, and I'm sure we will speak again soon, mate. All the best, Freddie.
Once again, then a big thanks to Alan from the excellent Brighton Hove Albion radio show and podcast, the Albion Roar. All their information and all their channels are available in the description of the show. A big thanks then to you at home for making it this far. If you haven't already, do get in touch and tell me how and where you'll be following the game this weekend, and tell me your score predictions. And also, if you're out and about, or even just making your breakfast on Saturday morning, why not join us on Voice FM to get you in the mood for match day from 10 till 12 on Saturday morning. So thank you very much then for watching or listening along then. Enjoy the rest of your bank holiday weekend in the UK. It's bye for now, and up the Saints.